Describe in single words only the good things that come into your mind about your mother.
My mother?
Yeah.
Let me tell you about my mother.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains language and themes not suitable for all audiences, as well as spoilers for the content being covered. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, everybody, to the High Tech Low Life podcast, Season 2, with your hosts, Eric and Josh. I'm Eric.
I'm stunned into silence. And Josh?
Yep, we are. I decided it would make our long break make more sense if we used it to divide seasons. Literally nothing will change, and it is purely set dressing. It means nothing.
Is it okay if we literally never reference it again until like a year from now when we say it's the beginning of Season 3 with no warning?
Yeah, that's completely my intention.
Because it gets on my nerves when podcasts do seasons.
I know, me too. And that's another reason I did it. We are officially back doing an official episode covering an official book by an official author.
And it's officially Cyberpunk. We gotta keep that. Yeah,
it's not Dawson's Creek. It's officially Cyberpunk, and we are joined by an official guest.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Radical Jason. Thanks for bringing me on for Season 2 to get the youth vote.
Hell yeah! He's going to be your favorite new character, everybody. Just wait for
Jason. He's got a skateboard.
Sorry, guys. I have to break in here. I just got a note. Radical Jason had to return to his home planet.
I'll miss him.
So, are you going to join us, Geoff?
Yeah. I mean, there's an empty mic, so I might as well.
That would be great. I think that would help us a lot.
What were you doing at Radical Jason's house? You're going to take over his whole family, too? He had a wife and 3 kids.
Which is why it's weird that he actually snuck into my house.
Well, I hope those kids are doing okay, because God knows where they are.
Look, we don't offer pensions or health care at High Tech Low Life, so...
No. And if you try to unionize guests, we're gonna bust you. We got the Pinkertons on speed dial.
Man, this truly is an American podcast.
Yes, it is. Welcome back, Geoff.
Oh, Jesus Christ, you literally made me fucking blow beer out my nose with the Pinkertons. I'm going to mute for a second.
You do that. Clear your sinuses while I read his accolades. Those mainly being the Astronomica podcast, but you do several characters on that podcast, and I enjoy all of them, even the ones that you stole from your game master.
Those are my favorite.
And they're fantastic. How have you been since the last time you were on, which I believe was the Virtual Light episode?
Yes, the prequel to this book.
Yeah.
And I've been quite well. It's been very, very, very hot. It's not to get into dystopia talk, but there's oddly enough a few scraps of good news here and there, which is strange to have happen.
Yeah, well, a lot has happened since we last recorded.
Really?
Like literally
the
day after we last recorded, something very dystopian happened. If you'll recall, Josh, it wasn't a main episode; it was a Patreon episode, but it was still.
I don't remember what day that was.
Well, it was the day before Trump got shot.
Oh yeah, that's it. That seems like it was news. Yeah.
Well, it's dystopian because he almost got shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they had hit the mark, it would have been utopian.
Yeah.
Well, I think it can be dystopian and good, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, like cyber arms are dystopian, but also I'd like a pair.
I'll settle for some.
What about raptor legs?
Also good.
I'd take. Oh yeah. Well, then you could be the Australian female breakdancing.
God, so much has happened since we recorded.
Yes. Boy, I was all primed to go through this intro, and then, in 3 or 4 minutes when Eric says, so, dystopia talk, I was all primed to go, like, I don't know, has anything happened? And, it really does seem like a lot of things have happened. Makes sense. Happened.
Yeah. last 3 weeks were a real rough year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tell me about it. But yeah, not all bad. Like some of the things that I know I specifically wanted to happen, at least politically, did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
I know you guys don't like to get into politics on this show, but
no, we try to avoid it. But
our listeners hate it. Maybe true, actually.
I'm glad Genocide Joe dropped out.
Yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic about the pick of VP as signaling some kind of change of being willing to listen to humanity, anything remotely humane. That's
me
nice.
Too, and it makes me like, it is such a weird feeling that it makes me nervous. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's, if you're going within the traditional structures of the Democratic Party, like a fucking high school social studies teacher, it is like, that's about as close to perfect as you're gonna, and like pro unions, and I don't know, it freaks me out, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's really weird to get what we kind of wanted. I mean, it's not perfect. Nobody is saying that, but it's kind of what we were asking for, and it's strange.
Yeah. When I saw that it was down to Waltz and Shapiro, I just felt this like sad, wilting pre-defeat. I was like,
we all knew it was going to be the other guy.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't. That was just weird.
Yeah. It was great.
What's strange about
what
this?
What a great feeling.
Yeah, I agree. It's too bad. It'll be too bad when they lose. Sorry, that bring it down a little bit.
Well, they're also, again, uncharacteristically for the Democrats, like they are effectively campaigning.
It's bizarre. It's like somebody under the age of 85 is running.
And Trump and Vance are just flailing like idiots. Like,
oh yeah,
they're making so many unforced errors that it's deranged.
It's great. I mean, J.D. Vance is an entire unforced error.
That's true.
Yeah, definitely.
God, what a slimy.
I was giving it some thought today. I was thinking about my own family. They're part of them. My mom and her husband are pretty conservative. They voted conservative. And I'm like, if they actually paid attention to who these candidates were, they would vote for the Democrats this time. Because my stepdad is a cop and he's a big hunter. Turkey hunting is his thing. Like, I'm pretty sure Walls is a turkey hunter who is a fan of guns, but not assault weapons. Like, I don't know. I can see some people crossing over but who knows? And everything's so polarized, and I don't know. It's just weird. It's a weird change.
Yeah.
It's weird to have people that we both could like.
It's strange to have common ground with somebody.
Yeah.
In this day and age, especially for me, because like Waltz is like the furthest right wing that I'm willing to compromise to go to.
Right. Yeah. And you've never had the opportunity to compromise before.
Yeah, agreed. That's pretty much the position I'm in. Like, wow, this is like if you're going to have somebody who's listed as a fucking Democrat, this is like the only option I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It's fun to be bewildered, I guess.
Yeah, I watched last week, I think sometime, I saw the keynote speech that Walls gave at the ESRI, which is a GIS, Geographic Information System software company, their big convention, which, he actually, like, not only do I use that software a lot, but he is aware of it and knows how to use it and was saying the right things about, like, he got up and gave a very good speech about how, Yeah, geography really influences people's economic and like, oh my God, somebody who gives a shit about geography?
And
What?
he says it in a way that doesn't that makes sense to people
Yeah.
who don't get it, even someone who might be opposed to him, which is very interesting. Even though he's not the actual candidate, but he does seem to be who everybody's talking about.
He's done more interviews than the actual candidate, so
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
But he's not yet sat down with Elon, so we got to wait for that.
That's true. If Twitter can handle it.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Is there anything else that isn't, I guess, election related to talk about dystopian wise? I feel like there is, but there was the Olympics. That's pretty lame. Although I don't know.
mean,
I kind of enjoyed some of it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It was really kind of a bummer to find out that Turkish shooter was credibly involved in a bunch of war crimes.
Yeah, that's too bad.
I when all those memes were going on, I was like, yeah, this guy rules. Like, just completely putting aside everything that I know about Turkey.
Yeah.
And what that probably says about someone from Turkey who's really good with a handgun. Like,
It's sort of like the actual countries are totally separate from the entities which are involved in the Olympics somehow.
Yeah.
Well, I read some not so happy stuff about the Australian breakdancer lady too, about how she basically screwed over some actual breakdancers so she could go to the Olympics on their country's dime. But
oh man,
I don't know if
Well,
that's true.
who
It's just an
among
article
us?
I read.
I mean, if I was put in charge of organizing the breakdancing team for the United States,
You'd be on it.
I'd be on the breakdancing team for the United States.
And you are, you should be, because your dad famously dated somebody from Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
That is
The
true. No. that is in fact true, and a part of our deep lore on this program.
That is pretty cool. Like that.
Yeah.
Of all the things you could claim a vicarious connection to, like that's top of the charts.
It's one of those weird things. Like it's such a deeply obscure movie, but at the same time, everybody has heard of Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, even if nobody has ever seen it or knows anything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, at least they've heard of blank 2 Electric Boogaloo,
yeah.
because that's what it's most famous for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's most of the news. I'm rushing a little bit because we got a whole book to get through, and there's so much we could talk about. We haven't talked in a while. We could sit here and jabber all day. But we got a William Gibson novel to talk about.
We do.
And I want to get to
Perfect fodder for a tight 90.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But before we do that, we have to give recommendos because it has been 6 months. And
I don't know. Feel like it. Yeah.
I also have a few little minor announcements. So let's do our recommendos, and then we'll do some announcements, and then we'll get into the book. So, Josh, I'll start with you because you've always got multiple ones.
I do. Let's see. Oh, the other day I watched Bad Boys Ride or Die. It's exactly a Bad Boys movie. I mean, take it or leave it.
Did you choose Ride or Death?
I chose Ride, baby.
Nice. Glad to see you're still with us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's if you're into the bullshit nonsense Bad Boys action movies, yeah, it's great. Like, I don't know. It's almost impossible to say something that either sells it or doesn't sell it to somebody. They're already sold based on having seen Bad Boys films.
Yeah. Although this one not directed by what's his name, right?
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay.
He also didn't do the last one.
Okay. I don't think I saw the last one either, though.
Which I do. I would like to fight the studio over the last one. The last one was called Bad Boys for Life, which is really fucking dumb to make the third Bad Boys movie Bad Boys for Life when the titles honestly have nothing to do with the films. The third one could have easily been Ride or Die, and then the fourth one could have been For Life.
Yeah.
Will Smith and Martin
4,
Lawrence actually mentioned that on TikTok.
Oh, okay.
And they fully they fully apologized. Like, you're right. That was our bad. We screwed up there. That's a big mistake.
Okay, good.
So they know what they did.
Yeah. Okay, good.
We're very sorry. If it helps, we just did it for the huge piles of money that they literally flung at us.
Yeah. Geoff, do you have a recommendo?
I do. I have a couple of books that I really would like to recommend.
Books.
First and foremost, The Butcher of the Forest. It's a novella by Premi Muhammad, and it's sort of an inversion of a like classic Grimm's fairy tale. Sort of a Hansel and Gretel vibe from the perspective of a witch who is sent into the forest by a bloodthirsty tyrant to save his children. And the forest is like, full of unicorns and fairies and all sorts of other things, but they're all horrifying. And it's just really, really beautifully written, well characterized. I love her as an author, and it's a really good.
I'm trying to remember.
read.
I have definitely read something by her before, and I cannot think of what it was.
She has a collection of short stories called "No One Will Come Back for Us."
That is the
really
one.
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have that. Okay.
Could you say the title of the book and the author one more time?
Sure. The Butcher of the Forest by Premi Muhammad. Premee. And then Muhammad as in
Muhammad.
one of the most common last names in the world.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool. I wrote that down. Sounds like something my wife would like, actually.
Yeah. Oh, and if you haven't read that book of short stories, it's called No One Will Come Back for Us. That one is kind of a lot of them are sort of influenced by Charles Stross and like the modern Cthulhu mythos.
Yeah.
Really, really good. The title story takes place in a like naval research submersible habitat, and they basically find Relia.
Yes. Okay. I was like, I was trying to remember, like, the name strongly rang a bell. That title rang a bell. And the fact, like, I remember, a short story book. But yes. Okay. Now I am fully on board. Yeah. I really liked that. I really liked that book. Yeah.
And then a couple of the other short stories in that book are set in a shared world, or not a shared world, but a common setting where all like gods are real, but it's like the god of your trash can is a real thing, and you have to propitiate it with sacrifices. And there's a short story set. Yeah, very. And so in like the bucolic countryside, like people's lives go great, but when you're called upon to make a sacrifice, you better pay up. And there's a short story called Willing that's set in that world. That's probably it's one of my favorite short stories of all time. It's really good.
It's high praise. Also, I'm guessing you've read a number of them.
Of short stories, yeah. That. Honestly, that might be one of my more favorite. I love a good short story. Like it. There's something about the constraints of the brevity makes you really boil down everything.
We should do more on this show, honestly.
Yeah.
They're kind of too short, though.
Yeah, too bad there aren't any major books in Cyberpunk that are compilations of short stories, huh?
Nope.
Somebody should get on that.
An anthology. Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. And also The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. Real good book.
Yeah.
It's about also about sort of a theme, I guess. Maybe I'm on a spiritual quest. It's about the tutelary gods of cities are real, and New York has developed enough complexity and depth of soul that it can become they can have like patron gods, avatars of the city.
Yeah, there's a Brooklyn and
there's a Brooklyn and a Queens and a Manhattan and everybody forgets about Staten Island. Which ends up being a big plot point. Spoiler alert. But hot take, N.K. Jemisin, real good writer.
Yeah, as it turns out, she's all right. I have not read the sequel to that one yet. Have you picked it up?
The World We
Make?
Something.
Yes,
The World We Make. Yes, I have read it. It is. I think it's not quite as. It feels a little more hurried, maybe, than the first one, but it's. I mean, it's N.K. Jemisin's worst book is still a really damn good book.
She's for those in the audience who might not have immediate name recognition. For N.K. Jemisin, she wrote the Broken Earth series. I don't know what those started coming out 7-10 years ago, something like that.
I think 10. Yeah.
And those are very, very fucking cool. The 5th season is the first one, right? 5th season, Obelisk
right.
Gate. Yeah.
I read her first. I think it was her first book. It was interesting.
Yeah, they're very good.
Yeah, I think right around 10 years ago was when that came out, the 5th season. That was also around when all the stupid sad puppies drama started.
Yes. Oh my God, that was that same fucking year, I think. Oh,
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. Boo.
I'm not familiar with this drama.
Basically, a couple of boring white guy writers who wrote, basically rehashes of 50 million books you've read before. Like, hey, what if Larry Niven was less original?
Yeah.
They got mad because
What if it was military sci-fi and extra fashy?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, okay. So what if Robert Heinlein had a bit less of a conscience?
Yeah.
Oh.
So they got all pissed at the Hugos, and decided to do this slate voting thing, and tried to set up a bunch of people to do organized voting so that they're really fucking mediocre authors who just weirdly all happen to be
White guys.
boring fucking white guys, because the Hugos have been and like science fiction has been totally taken over by those people.
The woke mind virus.
The woke mind
Yeah.
virus. Yeah, it's taken over everything.
Yeah.
They got mad because like 3 nominees were either women or people of color, or even worse, women of color.
Yeah.
DEI hires. Am I right?
Exactly.
Oh, that sounds lame.
Yeah. It was not a cool time. It was. Yeah. It was also like that. It was also basically runoff pussy from the fucking Gamergate shit.
Oh god.
Yeah,
Like
there was a lot of that.
this was the next step of Gamergate.
Those are bad times.
Yeah.
Yep. Unsurprisingly, one of those guys that was behind that is a big QAnon guy now. So there you go.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
I'd rather not advertise him, but is his pen name 2 3-letter words, one that starts with a V and one that starts with a D?
Correct. It is as though the voice of God has whispered it in your ear.
Yes, I
Van
am.
Dwilder?
Yes. He stopped. He actually graduated, stopped partying,
And wrote
National Lampoon's Van Dwilder, Part 4. Van ages into crypto-fascism.
Yeah.
I read it.
And the thing is, that he's like one of his best friends of all time was like a brown guy, so he can say all this stuff.
Well, yeah, it gives you a free pass.
Yeah. Woof. I bet that movie holds up great, right?
Van Wilder?
Got to. Yeah.
I don't know. Not going to watch it to find out. I watched it enough as my dad thought it was the funniest movie on earth besides Captain Ron. And forced me to watch it a million times.
What a pair. What a pair of absolute gems.
I do love Captain Ron as a result. I didn't capture that love for Van Wilder.
I don't hate Captain Ron, but to be one of your 2 all-time movies ever.
His number 3 would be Night at the Roxbury. So my dad has a strange taste in comedies.
Yeah.
I will say this. Your dad is not what I would call a predictable man.
No, he's not.
No, he'll go left when you're looking right.
Yeah.
My dad's 3 favorite movies: Van Wilder, The Tooth Fairy, and Remains of the Day.
Captain Ron, though, far and ahead away from
The
all those
best
other
of
movies.
those. Yeah.
He's obsessed with that film. At least was.
Captain Ron came up multiple times this summer, and it wasn't always my fault. So I don't know what the deal was.
It'll be on a Patreon episode at some point. I am certain.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, technically, it's a cyberpunk movie because he has a fake eye. So
Yeah.
got some body mods.
Yeah.
High tech, low. There's
I
some
mean, definitely
low
low
life.
life. I mean,
Yeah.
Captain Ron's a fucking low life.
He is a
and
low life.
there are fucking gorillas in the gorillas in that jungle.
Yeah. I did want to give a recommendo. Speaking of space fascism, I started playing Helldivers 2, and it's a lot of fun. More than I expected, honestly. I kind of expected it to just be boring, but it turns out it's not. So if you're into that kind of Starship Troopers-y fake fascism, what's the word I'm looking for?
Gung-ho militarism?
No, I'm satire.
SF?
Satire is the word I was looking for.
Okay, sure.
It's pretty funny and a pretty fun game on
nice.
top of it. Do we have anything more we need to recommend?
I have two, one of which will be very quick, and one of which probably won't be. I watched the brand new, yesterday released Jackpot film on Amazon, starring Awkwafina and John Cena.
Oh, I think we're going to watch that soon.
The reason I bring it up is because it's kind of a dystopian cyberpunky concept.
That's true, actually. Yeah, forgot.
It's basically like The Running Man, but kind of inside out, right? Like you survive and win money.
Yeah,
sort of.
The idea is in the state of California, you enter a lottery, and it's a huge lottery. The one that is the focus of the movie is $3.6 billion, I think. And this, the lottery is awarded at noon, and if you survive until sunset, you get to keep it. But if somebody kills you before sunset, they get to keep it. So that's the setup for the movie. It was pretty all right. I mean, it's decent.
I like Awkwafina. I actually like John Cena.
Yeah.
I'm not a wrestling aficionado, so take that for what you
I'm
will.
hot and cold on John Cena, but he has the ability to be very charming at times.
He is not in super charming mode in this. He's in a weirdly insecure mode. It's kind of interesting.
I think that's where he kind of shines, actually.
Yeah.
When he's playing a sort of.
I mean, that's what Peacemaker, is that what that?
Yeah.
He was pretty insecure in that, but I was still charmed by him.
Yeah.
I will bring peace to the world. I don't care how many men, women, and children I have to kill to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would give it a recommendo, not a real strong one, but it's definitely a pretty entertaining. It's a way to kill 2 hours and has funny lines and a horrible dystopic concept and a bunch of really funny people in it, doing their thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
It also, I want to come back to that in just a moment. I should have done this other thing first. I want to recommend The Daughter's War. I thought that was one of the things you were going to recommend. So I bumped it to the bottom of my list. But Christopher Buehlman's newest novel, The Daughter's War, which is a prequel to
The Black Tongue Thief.
The Black Tongue Thief, which Geoff actually turned me on to, a year or 2 years ago, something like that.
I've seen that book referenced so many times by different people, mainly on Twitter and stuff, talking about how good it is.
It is. It's really good.
It's real good. As soon as I finished The Daughter's War, I went back, and even though I had other shit that I should have been reading, I went back and reread The Black Tongue Thief.
Nice. Yeah.
Afterwards, because I was like, fuck, I got to get more of this.
It's so good.
Highly recommended. They're fantasy books. It's a whole, I don't know, there's a lot of really inventive and very interesting shit in them that you don't get a lot of places. Also, Eric, there are goblins, and they're horrible little goblins.
I like horrible little guys.
The Daughter's War, in fact, is called the Daughter's War. It's a war with the goblins. And the reason it's the Daughter's War is because all of the fathers and sons have died in the previous Goblin Wars.
Yeah. Oh, so that's all that's left.
Yeah, it's like the fourth Goblin War, and they're kind of running out of folks. There are battle crows, so what else do you need?
Yeah, you're selling me.
The main character in The Black Tongue Thief is a thief. and a liar, and he's exactly the type of character that you would like, Eric.
Yeah, he is a greasy.
He's a main character, though. That's always a.
He is this. He is the main character of the book, but he is definitely a deep side character on this quest that the book is focused on.
Okay, it's like a Vlad Taltos type of situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Vlad is usually in the driver's seat a lot, but
not in the world in which he lives.
Well, that's true. He's coming up with some heists, though.
Yeah. He's definitely leading what he's doing.
Yeah.
I haven't read one of those books in 20 years. I really need to read those again too.
The new one came out a couple of 3-4 months ago, I want to say, and it was very good.
I mean, I love Stephen Bruce, and I keep meaning to read it, and I keep forgetting that I'm always like, what was I going to read? And then I'm halfway through a different book when I finally remember. Oh yeah.
I feel like I should reread some of the old ones before I dive into the new one, but that's probably not true from what I remember. They're all pretty standalone, even though they're also linked.
Yeah.
They make references, I think, but not... Well, I don't know about the most recent one, but usually you can just pick one up and read it.
Yeah, it follows pretty much directly after the last one, but who cares?
Yeah.
You know, given the way those books are written, who gives a shit? It's you figure out what's going on in the first 5 minutes and you're done.
Yeah. Is that it? Are we good to move on?
I did want to momentarily go back to Jackpot.
Okay.
And this is a topic for discussion / consideration. Something I noticed watching that movie, and I'd watched a couple other things recently, just like comedies of the past several years. And okay, so Jackpot's directed by a guy named Paul Feig, who has directed a ton of big movies. He was also a co-creator on Freaks and Geeks. He did Bridesmaids. That was his big movie. He also did Ghostbusters, but they've got vaginas.
Yeah.
And a ton of other...
Gamergate.
Yeah. And a ton of other really successful movies. And something I noticed watching this compared to a couple other things I just watched for, shits and giggles over the past couple of weeks is that there are not very many comedies anymore that don't have fucking guns in them.
Really?
Okay, the ones that, the comedies that I've liked the most over the past couple of years are the ones that don't have guns in them. Bottoms, Joyride, what was that? Crazy Rich Asians. But so
that main character had a couple of guns.
Good point. Good point. But I was looking at I just looked at IMDb and I'm like, oh, what else has Paul Feig done? He did The Heat. He did every fucking movie he has done, with the exception of Bridesmaids, involves comedy with guns. And that is really a running theme when I think back to all the comedies for the past 10 years or so. So many of them have these some sort of high concept thing that involves assassins, or it turns out that the wedding drug lord is invading the island that the wedding's on, and we have to get all hyper violent about it.
Yeah.
It's really fucking weird. It just hit me. Looking at this IMDb. Comedies didn't used to have guns all of the time.
That's true.
And it
trying
seems
to think of what comedies I've seen lately. There just aren't many comedies at all, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. The ones, at least, that kind of generally float up to the surface of my attention seem to be the handful that don't have guns, but I catch passing references, people on a podcast talking about, I went and saw blah, blah, blah. And it's a comedy that involves hitmen and I don't know, whatever. It's really...
is there, what about Deadpool and Wolverine? Are there guns in that?
I don't think there's any comedy in that.
Hey, called out.
Hey!
Second time Josh has dogged Ryan Reynolds this episode.
I'm just trying to get on Chris's good side so he'll like me when we meet next week after next.
I think that's a concept worth looking into, honestly.
Yeah, it occurred to me, and I was like, okay, I need to bring this up and at least mention that this is something I've thought of, because it seems like a thing.
Yeah, that's very strange. I'm trying to think of a comedy that I've seen that doesn't have
One that's
guns, like you're saying.
coming to mind for me only because it's been occasionally I watch entire movies on TikTok out of order with some other thing happening off to the side. And Palm Springs, that movie's been popping up, which is like, Groundhog Day with
Oh yeah.
There's no guns in that as far as I know.
Good point.
There is a gun because
there's a crossbow in that.
There's a crossbow.
Yeah. The guy that threatens him at the mouth of the cave.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not really a violent movie.
Yeah, it's not. It's not predicated on guns.
Right.
It's a high concept comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty. I was thinking I watched the John Hamm Fletch, but that's definitely got some guns in it.
Yeah. Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar.
Oh,
there are guns in that, I guess.
There are guns.
It's not really.
They're not the focus. Yeah.
It's sort of a spy movie, but it's not really a spy movie. So
actually, did Paul Feig direct that one too? I think maybe he did.
Did he? Huh.
Yeah. Anyway,
speaking of Barbie, I don't think that had any. That would have been a weird one to put guns in.
I think.
Oh,
I might consider that one a stretch to go into comedy.
Yeah, I know.
You're forgetting about the Symbionese Liberation Army Barbie.
SLA Barbie.
I mean, it's a musical, but it's also a comedy.
With bonus, Roland the Thompson Gunner torso.
All right. Well,
you can buy First Pacific National Bank playset.
We can continue thinking about this concept as we are going over the book we covered this week, which you might notice. Well, okay, I don't want to talk about the book yet because I got a few announcements.
Oh, yeah. Good job. Yeah.
Are they announcements? I wanted to a special shout out to an email we received just yesterday from a new listener who was worried that we were burning out because we hadn't released anything in a while. And I just want to let everybody know we're not burning out. We're actually quite hyped to record, and we kind of had to stop when we were, kind of on a roll. But Josh simply hasn't had internet for much of this summer, and when he has been back, I've been traveling. Like it's been.
Yeah, if you actually saw our calendars superimposed on one another, you'd go, "Oh yeah, I see the problem. They're never in places they can record."
Yeah, it's amazing that we got the little bit of stuff out that we did, frankly, because I mean, it sounds like we're making everything up as we're going along, but Josh actually puts a little work into it, and there's a little bit of editing required after the fact that I usually do. So there's time off mic that we just frankly didn't have.
Yeah.
So
it was kind of shocking to me to get behind the scenes and hear how many times Josh advocates for the violent overthrow of the United States government.
They all got to come out too, because I get implicated
in
it, even if I'm like, trying to calm him down, but
well, look, I get worked up. Okay. I'm passionate.
Editor me, insert long beep here. That'll be really funny.
Yeah.
I will not remember to do it. But yeah. And this emailer also, I think I can say their name. It's Kevin, also gave us a bunch of recommendos. And in honor of that, we're going to do one next week.
Yeah. We've got just, a little bit of scheduling stuff. We're assuming this is going to go for, I don't know, say slightly over a tight 90. So we'll probably get 2 weeks out of this recording. Mm-hmm. Then the week after that is when we are going to be in the same place as Geoff and hanging out with Geoff and doing fun stuff with the Astronomica people.
Oh, hey, sorry. I meant to cover this off mic.
Well, I can edit this out. I will actually make note of it.
Feel free to promote the location and whatever of Astronomica. Like,
okay.
We got plenty of room. All are welcome. And if any of your peeps want to come swing by, if you guys want to have, the high-tech lowlife contingent, high-tech lowlife column show up at Astronomica, we are more than happy to host that. So
I don't need to edit that out. That just sounds like a good plug.
Yeah, sure. Look, we'll shit. I don't have Discord up on here. What is it? Shelby Meerman State Park. Is that right?
Shelby, yeah, Pearsall Group Camp at Shelby Meeman State Park near Memphis, Tennessee. It's actually in Millington is the name of the city.
Yes.
And that's going to be August 29th, 30th, 31st, and September 1st.
Yeah, I recommend everybody, if you're vaguely interested, check out the Astronomica Discord. And there is a whole channel there called NerdCamp/Astronomicon, which has all the details.
Yeah.
Eric and I are going to be there, and we'll have fun.
Yeah, and you can find their Discord on their website at astronomica.com, correct?
Astronomicapodcast.com.
Astronomicapodcast.com. Right. Yeah, I think they've got plenty of space this year. So, and there's already a lot of cool people coming.
Yeah.
I know for a fact because I've talked to many of them on the Discord.
Yeah.
And it's so there's no cost as far as we're concerned. So obviously you got to get yourself there, but the lodging and basic accommodations are free. Usually
They've literally got a bunkhouse reserved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems kind of huge. Also, just so everybody knows, and not just Wes and Eric, I own a cot. So
also, Josh has said that at least 3 times in our little chat, which I have affectionately labeled on my phone Astronomicunts. Sorry to sully your brand with that.
No, I as long as you say it in Billy Butcher's
Astronomicunts.
Well.
It will, if it is anything like last year, and I have no reason to suspect it won't be. It's going to be a lot of fun. A bunch of people hanging out, chatting, playing board games, RPGs. Everybody there is cool. I mean,
not
least,
me.
Well, can't guarantee that because I'll be there this year.
Good point. Cool within the realm, within the frame of people we're talking to on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I think I might volunteer. I've got a one-shot RPG thing that's for the Blades in the Dark system.
Oh, nice!
Cyberpunk.
Like
so
I want in on that.
Yeah. So I might run a thing. Yeah. Hopefully it'll be fun.
All right. Cool.
Sorry to disrupt. I just had
no, it's not disruption.
Yeah.
It's a
we'll say that at the end too.
The end, yeah. I don't know if we have any listeners in the Tennessee area besides you, but if you are, that would be a cool thing to see.
And also there are a number of people who will be at this, or at least I assume will be at this, who are already listeners to this podcast. So
there's a lot of crossover these days.
If you're not on the Astronomica Discord, there are a bunch of our people there too, who some of which we stole from them, some of which they stole from us, and we're all kind of commies, so it's fine.
Yeah. And people are property to be traded back and forth. Wait,
shit.
All right, JD Vance. Don't sit on the couch at Astronomicon after Eric's been there.
It's true. All right, the book we're doing this week. I think we're safe. I thought I had another. Oh, fuck. Okay, I remember the final announcement. God dang it, we are 45 minutes in. The final announcement has to do with the Patreon and with Patreon in general.
Yeah.
We've got some followers on there now, and we appreciate every single one of you. In the future, if you aren't a Patreon subscriber and we're thinking maybe you would want to, I would personally recommend that you do it any way other than the Apple iPhone Patreon app. I don't know who's to blame between Patreon and Apple. Maybe it's a little bit of both. I think it's mainly Apple, but I think Patreon wanted this too. But Apple's insisting on a 30% surcharge to future subscriptions, and since ours is only $5, that's an extra couple bucks. Like it's
Yeah.
no small bump in price. And Patreon in its stupid email to its people said, we recommend that you just up your prices. Don't eat the cost, which is frustrating. I'm going to recommend just don't use the Apple app because I think through the web browser, it's still the same $5 price. And
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I wanted to say that if anybody's thinking about joining the Patreon, everybody that's currently in is grandfathered from what I've heard. So even if you've used the Apple app, you're
that's
still good. But yeah, if you're thinking of joining in the future, even to just do it once and get the stuff and then get out, which we always recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
don't use the app.
You can always email us. Let us know.
Yeah. Don't use the app. Use the web browser. So
Or just email me and I'll share my login.
yeah, do that too. We're really, I mean, it exists because there are hosting fees, but we're not gonna worry about it too much.
Yeah, come on, man. I would be the worst hypocrite in the world if I got angry at people for
pirating your shit,
not paying money for this nonsense.
Yeah, true. All right.
I mean, maybe if you guys didn't have so many 6-week long breaks.
Yeah. We're gonna have another one in about a year, most likely. So
yeah,
hopefully not
for
until
season
then,
3.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to talk about a book. Now, I have not said the name of that book out loud because I do not know how to say it. I have heard it said in my ears multiple times now by a narrator, but I wanted to hear one of you guys say it because you're a little more experts on this subject.
So
what book are we doing?
Oh, Josh, if you want.
Idoru.
Yep.
Idoru. Okay, because the guy in my narrator said it is Idoru.
No. These are 3 syllables in Japanese.
Yeah.
And the leading I is pronounced E.
E?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Idoru. Idoru.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I might mispronounce that because I've heard it said 1,000 times in my head differently, but
Sure.
Yeah.
Seems very fair. Yeah, we're going to talk about this book. So, Idoru is the second book in William Gibson's Bridge Trilogy. It follows Virtual Light, which Geoff helpfully covered with us.
Mm-hmm.
Came out in September 1996. And I'll just say, right out of the gate, and it probably gets really tiring hearing me say this. This is maybe my favorite William Gibson book.
You have definitely said that for every William Gibson book.
Yeah. It will come to an end at a certain point, but
not today.
Not today. And I think this might be the one. This is either the most or second most reread of my William Gibson books.
Interesting.
This is definitely the one besides Neuromancer that I remember you talking about the most throughout our youth.
Yeah.
I don't know why exactly, but it's definitely the one that I had the most title recognition for me, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Besides Neuromancer, of course, which it's kind of in a class it says.
I think so. This was a little more commercially successful, if I recall correctly, than Virtual Light, but it was not. It's definitely. I think these 2 are amongst his least picked up books.
I think especially these days, the Bridge Trilogy is pretty neglected in the readership compared to the Sprawl Trilogy or the Blue Ant books, or even his more current. I don't remember what we're calling the current series, but
they're so delightfully low stakes, at least so far. I don't know about the third one, obviously, but
I think it's that the stakes are very personal.
To
they're
not
each character, Yeah, it's literally life or death, but it's not the world.
Not the world ending, not like nations collapsing. Yeah, it's just a couple of people going through it.
Yeah,
I think that's maybe what I like about him. So
I do. Yeah, it's one of the things I really like about it. Like I was trying to the other day, after I finished my notes read through, I was trying to think of how I would characterize these, and like Idoru is like effectively like nothing. Like there are no stakes to this book except for to like 4 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any actual stakes occur so far off screen that it doesn't even matter. You know, it's like a rock star is going to marry a computer and somebody in his fan club is concerned.
Yeah.
Like that is the main driving plot point.
This is the most Studio Ghibli plot of any
You're
of
right.
any Gibson book.
You are absolutely correct.
I guess the stakes were kind of high for the Russians trying to enhance
yeah,
their infrastructure.
Yeah, large scale public works project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gated suburban luxury communities.
Infrastructure development.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think like sometimes the modern blockbuster has kind of poisoned us against some of these super high, like the Marvel movies and the Star Warses. Sometimes I just want to see a movie about some people going through it, and I feel like that used to be a lot more common than it is these days. Probably much like comedies without guns.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is a really good example of a book where there doesn't need to be a giant butthole in the sky that's going to swallow the planet.
Yeah, just a butthole in everybody's pants that's not going to swallow anything unless that's what they're into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, speak for yourself.
No judgment on what you want to do with your butthole.
We do not do kink shaming on this fucking show.
We do sometimes kink ask why.
We are kink curious.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, Josh, you used to loan me so many books. That's how I got most of my reading done. So many of those old like heist books like Dortmunder and Parker. I can't remember the author's name offhand.
Donald Westlake / Richard Stark.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just little books about a group of dudes trying to get by in their really difficult lives. And it's, I don't know, kind of miss it. I wish there was more of it these days. Maybe there is in books. I don't read a ton of books, I guess.
I don't know. That's hard to say. Or at least hard for me to say.
It doesn't seem that way in your typical like fantasy and sci-fi books.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there is definitely a genre of what you might call cozy fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I suppose there's cozy sci-fi, but it doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
Because I think sci-fi is supposed to be about big ideas, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Like the closest thing that I can think of to like sort of the ground level few consequences. I mean, there's not no consequences sci-fi. Otherwise people wouldn't like it. That does exist in short stories and stuff. But
yeah.
At least in sci-fi novels, the closest thing that I'm thinking of that has been big have been the Murderbot books.
Oh, yeah.
Where the stakes are, compared to the world around them, incredibly low. I mean, for the most part. There's 1 or 2 of them were, kind of ended up being like, oh, a whole fucking space station is in trouble. But generally, it's pretty small stakes.
Those are some pretty fun reads too.
Yeah, they really are. What is the author's name?
No.
Anyway, it's about a security robot quote marks maybe that hacks itself and gains sentience and ends up on adventures trying to hide the fact that it has sentience because that's very illegal.
I have a strict no sentient robots policy in the fiction I consume. So
how dare you? Martha Wells.
Yes, Martha Wells.
I totally thought of that on my own. Ignore the keyboard sounds.
So did I. Yeah, those are really good. There are a number of them are like novellas and are available pretty easily on Amazon or whatever for cheap. Highly recommend those books. They're fun and light. And the robot likes its stories. It loves soap operas.
Pat Cadigan, to get back to Cyberpunk.
Oh, Sinners.
A grand dame of the cyberpunk genre. Some would call her a founder.
Yeah.
She has a bunch of somewhat cozy, I guess you'd say, or like personal sci-fi short stories. The final performance or the farewell performance of The Amazing Ralphie, something like that. It's a short story of hers. It's really good. It's an AI in a hospice.
Well, we should cover it.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe cover the whole anthology if it's in one.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Speaking of cyberpunk books.
Speaking of cyberpunk books, we got the cyberpunk book here.
But so it is a cozy. What would you? I'm trying to put to words what my brain is ticking through my head and it's not working. What would you say it's about? I mean, you already said Rockstar wants to marry a AI and a fan isn't happy about it. But what's like the overall theme that Gibson's trying to get across, do you think?
Oh, that's actually fun. Okay, so now we're getting into
Celebrity.
One of Gibson's recurring themes that posts up very strongly here is less important in virtual light. It is definitely present in Mona Lisa Overdrive, and it continues to be an in and out sort of thing throughout his works.
An in and out urge, you could say.
Yes, an in and out urge to bring it back to virtual light.
Yes.
Is fame/celebrity, and how that both provides an area effect on people around you and insulates you from the world in much the same way that we've also seen he talks about the very rich, where they, once you become a certain level of rich and or famous, you kind of cease to be human in meaningful ways.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if you're like celebrity as opposed to just rich and floating above it, which we'll kind of see in the next Gibson book we cover, All Tomorrow's Parties, you affect people on a very personal level, even though they're people you've never met.
Right.
Make sense?
And in fact, meeting them removes the celeb. Like if you touch the idol, the holiness departs from it.
It kind of you kind of become beside the point of your own celebrity.
Speaking of which, one quick tangent. Next week, as this airs, one of our own idols is going to be here in Kansas City, and I really think Josh and I should try to get an audience.
Yeah, where are they playing? Like the Truman?
Dogstar is going to be. I think it's at the Uptown.
Uptown, okay. Keanu Reeves band.
Nice.
That he's been with since 93, 94, something like that. I saw him in 90, somewhere back there, 95, 96, something like that. We should probably stalk him, right?
we did it for James Vanderbeek.
Good point.
They're equal levels of celebrity.
Yeah.
Man, it would be great to get that black and white copy of Johnny Mnemonic signed, though.
Yeah, I should dig around and find my fucking neon orange VHS of Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah, that'd be sick too.
That'd be great. I bet that would get a smile out of him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just thought it was since we're talking about celebrity and our podcast is a very close relationship to Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
In 5 years, Josh is going to be living in a cardboard box in Shinjuku subway station,
painting socks on my ankles,
and
with roofing tar,
staring at a photo of Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
No spoilers.
Preview for the final book in the Bridge Trilogy.
All right.
Oh God, I'm so looking forward to that, man. I love this book so deeply. I think the conversations that we can have about All Tomorrow's Parties are going to be fucking sick.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that in season 3 of High Tech Low Life.
You said we wouldn't talk about that again.
I know. It's become a gag. All right. So, is there anything you want to say before we get into? I don't know how you plan to do that. Do this, Josh. I usually leave it up to you.
I thought about arranging the I didn't end up doing this, but I thought about going through this the book for the audience, if you haven't read it, has two main viewpoint characters, Laney and Colin Laney and Chia Pet McKenzie. And I thought it might be an interesting experiment to go through it with one plot line up until the very end, and then go through the other one.
Oh, yeah.
Up till the very end. But I did not go through and re-edit my document to reflect that possibility. But I think that might be an interesting exercise. I don't know if I can pull it off.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. They happen so concurrently. I feel like this one, they actually did alternate chapters pretty much.
Yeah. It's not. I think it's not 100%, right? There are a couple of places where there's two in a row, but almost all of them are alternate.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. Maybe I just stick with kind of a normal way.
It's worth noting that I feel like this book is written very accessibly. I guess I don't know if that's. I listened to it twice. And I don't usually do that. I kind of did with Virtual Light, but I didn't only got through half of my second one. This one I listened through twice and would have been down to do a third one if I'd had another day to kill.
Yeah.
I don't know. And also sometimes I get more distracted with audiobooks, and I didn't on this one. I don't know if that's because it's a little simpler and easier to follow, or maybe I was just that much more paying attention.
I think. Go ahead, Geoff.
Oh, I was just going to say, this is definitely one of his fastest reads. I kind of find all of Gibson's books generally tend to be pretty, they really keep you moving. They keep you
they click along. Yeah.
Usually there'll be some, there aren't a lot of really lengthy passages of more poetic language in this one, which is interesting because that's one thing that I love about his writing. But I love this book despite the fact that it doesn't have as much of that.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know how you do audiobooks, to be honest. I get about 5 minutes into an audiobook and then I get completely distracted and pay no attention to what I'm listening to.
Well, it's a problem because the first quarter of it, when they're introducing everything, I usually do it while I'm working or driving, and I often don't get a lot, and then I'm catching up later trying to remember what things are or pick it out from context clues that I missed, which is why for this show I've started actually trying to at least listen to the first few chapters again once I've gone through it. But I don't know. It's not the best way to consume a book. It's definitely not how it's meant to be, but it's the only way I really have time to do it.
Yeah.
So, and the narrator may play such an important part, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about it because it doesn't matter, but I was not a fan of this one. And this was a legally obtained copy from a reputable audiobook dealer who I won't name.
Idoru.
Yeah. No, it's Idoru. His voice was obnoxious. But and he could not do foreign accents. Zona Rosa is a hate crime the way he did her voice.
I didn't even think of that.
He was okay at the Japanese accents. They weren't as offensive. Yeah. But the Mexican one, no, he could not do.
I'm imagining Zona Rosa's lines in the voice of Speedy Gonzalez now.
Yeah, it actually sounded, it bled into some weird Eastern European and then out. It was bad.
Okay, cool.
Hello, Lassie. It's me, Zona Rosa. Your Mexican friend from the lake. What's the Spanish word for lake? Shite.
Sick my girls on you.
Oof. Okay. To touch back on where you started, I think this book is really super accessible. In terms of, okay, sure, it's sci-fi, but this is also very, to my eyes and ears, this is very similar to the to the Japan that exists
Mm-hmm.
in our reality. I think somebody said, and it might have been Gibson at some point, that Japan is living in the year 2000 and has been since 1980.
Yeah. Okay. I get
And since this book effectively entirely takes place in Japan, that lends it a level of verisimilitude that even though a big chunk of Idoru Virtual Light took place in LA and like San Francisco that exists, etc., so much of it, and it was so thematically central to the book, the bridge,
Yeah.
which is a completely non-existent place, even though it actually physically exists. But the bridge, as it's portrayed in the book, this book feels like it takes place now and here.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, also technology, like he was starting to get a grasp on where technology was headed, I feel like. And the technology as it's described in this book is a lot more up to date, especially than his first trilogy.
Yeah.
But I think even a little bit more than Virtual Light. I don't know. Like, I feel like people had phones they were carrying around for the most part. A lot of the sci-fi tech seemed plausible, and a lot of shit like deep fakes and stuff, he just straight up predicted.
Oh, I know. That was upsetting to read.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like incredibly upsetting. So we'll get to it, I'm sure.
The nanotech is not. I mean, obviously, that's we're at nothing like that now. But it's also kind of a MacGuffin. It's just sort of
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a thing that theoretically exists. It's
also
fucking fucking microfiche in North by Northwest. Who cares?
It makes
Marcellus
for such
Wallace's
a cool
soul.
backdrop for the story to be taking place. Like the idea of this Tokyo that was recently destroyed and is being rebuilt before your eyes. That's so fucking cool.
Yeah, and like the way he calls back to, I don't know, two or three dumb lines in Virtual Light, where I remember specifically is somebody telling Scooter, they shouldn't ought to said that about when you got the quake, because we get quakes too, and they shouldn't ought to said that about Godzilla. That's bad.
Yeah.
Just somebody, a vendor on the bridge talking to Yamazaki.
Yeah.
And like he built a good portion of a novel out of that line.
Right.
Like, hey, it turns out this guy's really talented, and I have no fucking like it's every once in a while people make a leap in usually in terms of literature or something like that. And I go, yeah, that's really why I don't even attempt to do that. I'm nowhere near that good. I'm pretty clever, but go ahead.
No, this is off topic of what you were just saying, but it struck me. Another thing about this book that kind of lends to its coziness, as opposed to a certain other book that the three of us have covered on this show. The main character is a 14-year-old girl, and at no point you're worried for her safety, but you're not worried for things that young girls often get to in novels. And that was, it's particularly in novels like Snow Crash. And that was nice.
And in fact, she's in a love hotel with a boy.
Wow.
Yeah, there's nothing, nothing even like something wildly inappropriate happens, but it's hilarious and harmless. Not
right.
That has literally never once crossed my fucking mind in the 30 years that I've been reading this book, but you're right.
I mean, when I'm reading something made like pre-2010 that involves a 14-year-old girl, I get nervous. Because men were fucking creepy back then. I mean, they still are, but they hide it better now. And
I think it's a sign that William Gibson is a good person.
Yeah, I think so. Like, he didn't even describe any of her body parts. She was just a young girl, and that's fine. She was just a character that existed for her character, not for anything else.
Yeah.
She's a human being with her own internal life and agency apart from her physical attributes. It's a weird conceptual leap to make, but Gibson manages it. Truly, his imagination is astounding.
Yeah, and I was paying attention, like most of the female characters, he didn't describe, like, and even he did in some of his earlier books, leading with their physical attributes. But like the names, I'm blanking on the name, the engineer.
Arlie.
Arlie, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's described as what she is, but he doesn't like overly sexualize her. It was just, I think women could read this book and not want to puke.
Let me quote from page 268. Laney thought Arlie McRae had, quote, bangin' tits.
It does say that. I believe what it actually says
huge fat naturals.
He says there's something about the set of her jaw that he really liked. I think that's what it actually says. But
you know what? I take it back. There is some some abstract poetic.
The banging tits.
Yeah.
Fat naturals.
Nobody describes a set of knockers like William Gibson.
Yeah.
Great googly moogly, Blackwell said. Them thangs thangin'.
I just think it's nice for a book written in 1996 to not have to worry about that stuff so much.
Creepy.
Yeah. I agree with you wholeheartedly, so much so that it had never occurred to me how much I would agree about that, because that's been such a part of the fabric of my life. That's like, well, of course, why would William Gibson be a weird sexist creep about this? I don't expect that.
Yeah.
But you're right. To some degree, I should have. But he didn't, so it's great.
And it was actually effective in making the 14-year-old girl feel more vulnerable, honestly, because she wasn't described as a grown-ass woman. She was a kid who was in a bad situation.
Yeah.
I really like, I know we're kind of jumping out of order of the narrative here, but I really, really like Chia's characterization, because Gibson absolutely nails this this savvy sophistication coupled with like just breathtaking naivety. Sometimes in the same breath, it's just,
and it's in the same word, for God's sake.
and like kids are like that. Like kids will be really savvy and sophisticated and like even cynical sometimes, and then they'll just betray like, oh yeah, you've only been on the earth for under 2 decades. Like,
it's weird. Like not having kids myself, but my sister has kids, and I'll talk to them, and they're like 15. You can talk to them like adults. You can joke with them. You can rib them, and they give back just as good as they get. And then they'll say something. And it's like, oh wait, I need to go kind of easy because you are very young.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, even in my memories, this is accurate. Like, I remember being 14, 15, and having those thoughts running in my head. Where now I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I agree with the first half of the sentence I'm remembering, and the second half is so god awful naive. I want to blow my brains out. Like that I ever thought that.
Anyway.
So should I introduce the 2 viewpoint characters?
Yeah, we should probably do that because we are at a tight 90.
Yes. Okay. So we're good at this. Okay. So there are 2 main viewpoint characters, and we've just been talking about Chia Pet McKenzie. She is a 14-year-old girl from the Seattle metro area. She is of unspecified ethnic extraction. It's when she was born, her mother didn't speak English. And her father was Canadian? ? I'm trying to see if I remember that correctly.
I don't remember that, but could be.
That's right. I think Italian. Wasn't her mother Italian?
I don't know. She doesn't speak English, and there are beads in her hair, including abalone and turquoise, if I remember right. In one of the descriptions.
Oh, yeah, maybe she's like a First Nations.
Well, yeah, she also gets the Sandbenders from. So who knows?
Yeah. The Sandbenders. Something I've been chasing for 30 fucking years now.
Yeah.
So she is a member of a fan club for a band that is nearly as old as her mother is. Low Res, LO/REZ.
There's a slash. I was curious if it was a slash or a hyphen. I've never read it.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, she's a fan of this rock band from like borderline her mother's youth, who she thinks it's pretty ridiculous that she's a fan of these old men. And she's part of this fan club, and they hear a rumor that the lead singer, Rez, is going to marry an artificial intelligence / idol singer / who knows what, and she's going to go investigate it in Japan.
She's kind of volunteered to investigate it because the other people in her chapter don't seem to want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or can't, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nice.
As it turns out.
Yeah. Yeah. So she is, I don't know. I honestly can't say who is the main viewpoint character in this book.
It's a pretty even split.
Very evenly. Yeah. The other main viewpoint character is a guy named Colin Laney. He came up having had something ADHD spectrum in his youth in Florida in orphanages, was given an experimental treatment, which definitely won't come back in the text at all, and has, over years working for a couple of different corporations, developed an ability to see nodal points, NODAL, which means shit in optics, but has now, in 2024, become very co-opted because of this book.
It's business speak now. It's like corporate guys. You talk about needing to execute and find nodal points.
Mm-hmm. But he formerly worked for a fun tabloid, which is definitely not fun. Basically TMZ, 25 years before TMZ existed.
Yeah.
20 years before TMZ existed.
It's a pretty good approximation of TMZ.
Yeah. And then got into some trouble. That's another thing that's definitely not going to come up and be explained. Lost his job and met a dude named Barry Rydell, who's a security guard. There's a whole lawsuit thing. But he didn't have a job, and Barry Rydell gave him a reference to this guy in Japan named Scooter Yamazaki, who needed a researcher who is now going to work for Res of Low Res. And, well, sort of, through several cutouts, is investigating the AI, that Res is marrying because his security staff is nervous about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just his security staff, his whole corporate hierarchy that's formed around his band.
Mm-hmm. This whole edifice. I was always curious about why this book was lumped into the Bridge Trilogy before, before I did more of a close read. Because it could easily, other than what I had thought was, other than mentioning Rydell here and there really wouldn't have necessarily been a lot to tie it together, except that rereading it now, especially so closely on the heels of doing a close read of Virtual Light, particularly in the opening, this book is almost a perfect inversion of Virtual Light.
Mm-hmm.
Rydell is now giving out the job that would cause havoc for Laney, who has run afoul of literally the same corporation.
Yeah, the exact same structures, even if they have a slightly different signage above them.
Yeah, and it's about celebrity in the same way that Virtual Light is a little bit, but it's also about like the intrusion of the virtual into the real world rather than kind of the other way around. Like blotting out the real world to go into virtual light. Like this is about in some ways, like, you know, Rei Toei is a protrusion of virtual world into the real world.
Yeah. Wow. So that's how it's. That's not how the my guy pronounced her name.
Oh, how did that work?
I believe it was Riatoe.
Oh wow.
Well, that is not how Japanese people pronounce anything.
Well, this guy was clearly not Japanese.
Okay. So, the book starts with Laney. He is going for a job interview. He's going for a job interview in maybe the most threatening environment known to man, which is a Kafka-themed bar in Shinjuku. With bug-shaped chairs and the Waitrons wearing fucking gray prison uniforms. And it is a hell of a way to start a book.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Like, it's scene setting. And so he got this reference from Barry Rydell, as I said. And he is meeting somebody, a representative of a company called Paragon Asia Dataflow, for this interview, along with Scooter Yamazaki, who we met in Virtual Light. And the main person at the interview is a guy who, to some degree, defies description. His name is Keith Blackwell, and he is a gigantic, scarred Australian who is missing an ear and wears dusters all the time.
Dresses quite well, from what I remember.
Yeah, dusters.
Micropore fabric.
Yes.
Always ready to go into the bush.
Yeah, he's ready at any time. It's unclear exactly his extraction. It does mention that he sided with the Tasmanians during the Troubles.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
he calls himself Tassie.
Yeah, I don't know if he is Tasmanian or is South Australian, but doesn't matter. Let's go with Tasmanian. Yeah,
that's how he identifies.
Yeah. And it's maybe the most threatening job interview that anybody has ever had.
Don't forget I listened twice trying to figure out what it was, but his dental prosthesis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What
they
is
never
that?
specify. So he's
got a bridge
hinted at. Yeah, his teeth have been punched out of his face.
Oh, the Bridge Trilogy.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Oh my god.
Nice.
Oh, you are 1,000% right. Jesus Christ. William Gibson just caught me with a pun 30 years after the fact. Shit.
I fucking loved this guy. He was amazing from the first introduction to the end, to his final scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Keith Blackwell is an absolutely indelible figure in my mind.
Memorable.
Yeah. And the really fun thing about Keith Blackwell is that he is a toned down version of a real dude.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, fun. Okay. I was actually going to address this later. But Keith Blackwell is based on a guy named Mark, quote, Chopper Reed.
Oh, I know Chopper. He had that movie in the 90s.
Yeah, like 2000, I think.
Yeah.
I bought the movie.
I remember you watching it when we were roommates.
Yeah. A guy named Mark Chopper Reed, who is an Australian criminal who was short 2 ears, as opposed to just the one.
Nice.
He was played by Eric Bana in the movie in I think it was year 2000 or so.
Yeah, because there was a documentary and then a fictional movie, based on real life.
A fictionalized version, directed by Andrew Dominic, the same guy who did the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, and The Proposal, and Killing Them Softly. Good Australian director. But most of Keith's stories are kind of adaptations of Mark Chopper Reed's memoirs, and he spent most of the 70s and 80s and very early 90s in Australia in prison. And then he got out because he was, as Blackwell later describes himself, a standover man or a toe cutter.
Nice.
Who is a person who robs drug dealers and more successful criminals, successful in quote marks. And basically the idea is you kidnap a very successful criminal, torture them to reveal where the money or whatever is, and then you kill them and take the money and do whatever.
Now I want to spin off with Blackwell and Omar from The Wire.
yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's what Omar. I think Omar was probably loosely had inspiration from that character as well.
I would absolutely bet it. The books. Go ahead.
Sorry, it's a total tangent, but Omar is
also
based
a
on
real dude.
A real dude from
who
Baltimore.
Appears in The Wire.
Yeah.
All right, I knew that.
Yeah. He appears in the final season of The Wire. I can't remember his name. But yeah, Chopper, Mark Reed, he died 10 years ago, probably something like that, of Hep C. Because oddly enough, he'd gotten a bunch of infections in prison. And then long after he got out, he got liver cancer, etc. And was in line for a transplant when he took himself off the list because he said something along the lines of, look, there are people who've lived good lives who need livers. I shouldn't be taking a slot on the I shouldn't be taking a slot on the transfer list. He was a fucking wild dude. Clearly, like, he's clearly a deeply mentally unbalanced person. But
you think?
But he was also like kind of a good dude, like, and also a really surprisingly good writer. I really recommend any of his books. Chopper on the Inside, I think, is the first one, and then he wrote like a couple of 3 or 4 others before he started getting into fiction. He also wrote a children's book, which was about being accepting of those with disabilities. So, he's a wild fucking dude. I super recommend his books and the Chopper movie from 2000 or so. That's the movie that got Eric Bana to be a Hollywood star for 5 minutes.
Yeah, he was the Hulk or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the Hulk.
Yeah. Well, Blackwell is
a terrifying nightmare.
Yeah, but also like hyper capable. One thing I like about this book is that the 2 main characters they're skilled in their own ways, but really they're kind of at the mercy of everyone around them.
Yes, they absolutely are. Lainey is to some degree already has been, but will be a recurring character in Gibson's books. Even if, like, he does recur in All Tomorrow's Parties, but a version of him recurs in the Blue Ant trilogy, where it's a burned out, really smart about one thing researcher who has very good insights about one thing and is absolutely fucking helpless in the world other than that.
Yeah. I mean, he's not in this book, but maybe he gets to that point.
He's close to helpless in this book. I mean,
he just sort of bounces around blaming jet lag for everything.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, and what's funny is that William Gibson has said he's almost a stand-in, an author insert character.
Laney is?
Of his time. Laney, his time in Japan.
He has definitely said that. Also, that's going to veer into All Tomorrow's Party stock.
Yeah, don't do that.
No, I can't. Okay, so Laney gets the job, basically, or is still in the process of getting the job as the chapter ends.
Yeah.
So,
because he's got to sit here and talk about his entire life.
Oh, there was one thing I did want to just pick up on Laney. Yeah, yeah. This is the autobiography of Laney with some stuff that happens in Japan in the midst. I loved when he was talking about when he's thinking of Barry Rydell. Mm-hmm. He's like a big, quiet Tennessean with a sad face. Nice guy, loser.
And if you would like to meet people like that, come to Astronomica.
Oh man, I did not care for how my narrator voiced Rydell. It was he made him sound like a dumb hick, which the virtual light narrator did not. So that was a pain.
That's how Laney hears him.
That's fair.
Even though Laney is from Jacksonville, is that right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Well, he bounced around between federal orphanages, but Jacksonville was the one where they administered the 5SB.
Yeah, the 5SB. That was actually really interesting to me, and that was the point at which I knew, oh yeah, I haven't read this since my heart attack. One of the drugs that they gave me while I was in the hospital for my heart attack, and then it's been a couple of times since then when I'm getting the full contrast echocardiogram thing. They inject you with this drug, either intravenous or either like through a hypodermic or an IV.
It's a little different.
And you, within like seconds of them pressing the plunger, you feel and taste rotting metal in your mouth.
I don't know what rotting metal tastes like.
It's believe me, if you got administered this, you would know. It's I wouldn't have been able to describe it except for this. It's like sucking on a nickel that's gone bad. Not that makes sense, but
was that contrast fluid, by the way, for imaging?
I think it's something sodium based, and I think that is I think, yes, it's some sort of contrast fluid, but not necessarily for imaging. It's for when they're doing the sonogram version. Because I've gotten it when I've gone in, like, I think twice since the heart attack. But the instant I read him saying the 5SB tasted like rotting metal, I went, oh, yeah, I haven't read this since the heart attack. Otherwise, that would have, like, triggered me exactly. And I would have remembered it. Because I know exactly what that tastes like. And it's really fucking... And how odd it is. I was warned the very first time they administered it to me, like, okay, this is going to sound weird, but you're going to taste metal in your mouth. And I was like, what? And the nurse stuck a hypodermic in the port in my IV. And I was like, that is really weird. I did not know that you could inject something that would make me taste a thing.
Now do it with like birthday cake, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very odd experience. If I hadn't been warned, I probably would have thought I was having a stroke.
All right, now this injection is going to make you taste ortolan, so we're going to have to hide your face from God.
Fuck yes, fuck yes. That's one of my dreams. I so want ortolan. Like, just once. I'm willing to pay the price.
Of eternal damnation?
Well, no, you put a napkin over your head so you hide from God
you're safe
while you're eating it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tiny baby birds.
Yeah.
Are you aware of ortolan?
I am aware of it, yeah.
Okay.
And cool. I don't think that I need to try that one.
I'm like...
that's going to remain unchecked on my bucket list.
I like trying new foods, even some weird ones, but I don't need to eat a tiny baby bird.
Look, it's got to be good if people are willing to go to that much trouble, right?
I don't know. Rich people.
Yeah.
They're willing.
But rich French and Italian.
I don't know. If you're out there and you've tried ortolan, like Mike the Sailing Guy probably has.
I bet if any of our listeners, I bet it would be Mike.
Yeah. He seems very well traveled.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're into sailing, that implies a certain class position.
Yeah.
Mike is he's on our side in the class war. Let's put it that way.
He absolutely is. Yeah.
We need somebody
Mike,
manning the boats.
Mike is 1,000% a comrade.
All right, so this might be a good time. No, let's do the opening chapter for Chia, and then we'll call it an episode.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Okay, so chapter 2, we introduce the second viewpoint character, Chia Pet McKenzie, 14-year-old Seattle. She is a member of the Seattle branch of the Low Res online fan club. She is also an officer in that club, although it's never defined what exactly her position is because they don't seem to really care about that nearly as much as the Japanese or the Tokyo branches give a shit.
Yeah.
As far as we could tell, there's only 3 people in the Seattle chapter, or at least 3 officers.
It's implied that there are substantially more, but yeah, there are 3 that are important. There's her, there's Kelsey, whose dad is a lawyer in Dallas or Houston, Texas, somewhere, and has a shitload of money. And there's also Zona Rosa, who is in Mexico City, leads a girl gang, and is apparently a wicked fucking hacker.
Zona is my second favorite character next to Blackwell. I really, she's not in the book a lot, but leaves an impression when she's there.
When she is so there.
I actually, as I was listening, well, when we get to it, the things she does to help her friend, I actually like kind of gave an out loud cheer as I was driving down the highway listening to that part.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I feel that every time I've read this book.
I also like the reveal, and again, sorry, jumping ahead, but Zona's switchblade that she's always playing with in their like virtual chats. It turns out is actually a like
it's actually
piece
a
of like military grade ordnance.
Yeah.
And that's just such an awesome little touch.
It's fun that each of them has a friend or at least a companion that's hyper capable in their fields of whatever they're doing.
Yeah, so the Low Res fan club has heard a lot of rumors that Res has proposed to an AI, and this seems I don't know, like honestly, like I was about to say this seems wrong to them, but at the same time, like they are confused by it, and they're that certain flavor of teenage obsession and interest in pop culture.
These days, I don't think it's limited to teenage.
Yeah, that's true. They have a deep enough parasocial relationship with Rez that if that's going to happen, they really want confirmation and to understand what it means. So they decide that Chia is going to go to Tokyo on Kelsey's dad's frequent flyer miles and find out what the situation is. Right?
Yeah, basically. Yep. Josh and I, for a while, were at the nerve center of a fandom. Mm-hmm. It's a weird place to be.
It kind of is, yeah.
It's cool and comforting, but also things can get weird sometimes. I mean, our fandom was like long retired, and obviously nothing like like a Swiftie or something today. I can't imagine.
Oh, that seems psychotic.
But can you imagine the stuff that happens in this book? I could see being a Taylor Swift I
mean, one of the members of this household, of my household,
that makes sense. Yeah,
a huge Swiftie. And
which dog is it, Geoff?
It's me, okay? It's me.
All right, thank you. Please be honest. You're in a safe place.
But no, this if some weird wild rumor about Taylor Swift marrying a football an AI football quarterback,
sure, why not?
And and she had access to unlimited frequent flyer miles. Yeah. I could absolutely see her wanting to do that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I hadn't made that connection, but yeah, number one, good call, Eric, on mentioning Swifties in connection with this, because I hadn't made that
Well,
leap.
good call, William Gibson, because
Yeah,
bands have had fans. Obviously, the Beatles, they were freak shows in the '60s. But I do feel like it's kind of a different level these days. Like Swifties like influence elections and shit. It's legit these days.
and it hadn't even occurred to me, even though I know, a little bit about Geoff's private life, that almost 100% odds that he's got a Swiftie in the house.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or is one.
Yeah.
I'm not a Swiftie, but another comparable, Juggalos. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
If I heard that Violent J was marrying an AI Juggalette,
I'd go, that tracks.
I'd go to the gathering,
Yeah.
and I'd find out for myself.
I do some crystal meth.
Aren't they both like really devoted family men though? Like in their private lives?
I believe they are both wife guys.
Yeah. And father guys, like the things. I've seen some really heartwarming stuff from Violent J and his daughter.
Yeah, especially. Yeah, his daughter is a furry.
Yeah,
right. Which he supports.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, they get a lot. Like, they're an easy punching bag.
They really are.
But like the fandom, like, there's a real sense of community. Like, they are anti-racist, like violently anti-racist. They go around beating up Proud Boys.
Yeah.
And they came around on homophobia. Like they were originally a very homophobic band, but it was actually Violent J's daughter who's like, you can't say that shit anymore. And then he came out publicly and was like, hey, I was stupid and we're not doing this stuff anymore.
Well, and even beyond that, they would still use, like homophobic lyrics, but the actual community of Juggalos was very accepting of, same-sex attraction and relationships, like within the community, even though they would use the F slur.
Yeah.
But so it's like kind of a mixed bag. But if their music wasn't absolute dog shit.
Hey, now.
Look, they have some very amusing tunes.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but The Great Malenko is a masterpiece. And
okay,
I Want My Shit is one of my favorite songs. It's in my top 100, 300.
Yeah, you are preaching to the choir, Geoff. Eric and I, we don't advertise it hugely, but we have both been to ICP concerts.
Mm-hmm.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
I've never identified as a Juggalo, but I've always counted them as good guys. Like I knew if I had problems, Juggalos would probably have my back because I think they have most people's back. They seem to be good people, other than the fact that they're usually on a lot of drugs.
Yeah. We were very both Eric and I were really good friends with a confirmed Juggalo for a number of years, and I don't think either of us have ever identified as Juggalos, but
they do put on a hell of a concert.
They certainly do. But we are definitely Juggalo allies. And on that note, I think we should end this episode of the show.
Well, then I have this to say to you, gentlemen. Whoop and whoop. The finest of whoops.
Whoop and whoop.
100%. All right. So let's do some plugs, get out of here, and then get on to part 2. So we are available on Twitter at Johnny60 Seconds. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/hightechlowlife. We have our own Twitters, but Blue Sky is actually a cooler place to find us.
Yeah. Go to Blue Sky, please.
And I don't think Twitter's going to be around much longer. Let's be real. It's circling the drain.
And if you're interested in us on Twitter, follow me, so that way I can follow you back, because I need more people on my fucking Blue Sky feed.
Yeah, I can't check it every day. It doesn't fill out every day.
Yeah. You can. What's neat is you can curate customized feeds, and you can follow other people's feeds. So I have an OSR feed that's fun.
Ooh, neat.
If you're into RPGs.
Geoff, what's your plugs?
Well, if you're not sick of me by this point, you can hear more of me pretending to be a weird robot on the Astronomica podcast, instead of being a weird robot pretending to be human. as I am now.
Hey, you do that amazingly.
Thank you very much, Meatbag. And you can find all of our info at astronomicapodcast.com.
I just listened to the most recent episode today, and it's been a good, fun arc the last couple weeks. Tense, emotional.
Currently, we are on a swamp planet, wrestling with pirates, about to fight some space worms. And we lost possibly the most treasured member of the crew recently in battle. And in conjunction with that podcast, we have our annual gathering in the woods where we play board games and role-playing games and hang out and eat lots of hastily prepared campfire food. We're not actually in the woods. We are in a fully plumbed, electrified, air-conditioned shelter, but it is inside the Shelby Meeman State Park, which is a nice old-growth forest near
The woods are very close, if that's your thing.
Yeah.
But the air conditioner is there, too, if that's your thing, which it is mine.
But yeah, and there's, we're all commies and anarchists, so there's a big communal potlatch, potluck culture, and so don't worry about eating. And
there's a graveyard. Yeah, necromancy encouraged.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So actually, if you are a weird fascist, come on by the woods. See how it
Come on
out
by. We've got somewhere already worked out. We've got your sleeping quarters fixed.
If you're a fascist with an incorrect assumption of how leftists feel about violence, come on by.
We are the correct crowd to exclaim your opinions to.
Anyway, no fascists. Please just stay home. All right. We'll be back next week to finish this book, God I hope. And until then, we don't have a sign off for this book unless Josh has one.
Fuck your mother. Yeah.
For you much. Okay, bye.
Bye.
This has been the High Tech Low Life podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60seconds, email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com, and find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music by Nihilor at nihilor.com. Thank you for listening.
Keep it moving. Come on, what are you waiting on? Let's go.
They're trashing our rights, man! They're trashing the fluid data! They're trashing! Hide the planet!
Shut up and get in the car.
Anybody there?
I'm here.
Yeah, in the interstice here, I am. I just saw an article about Rachel Gunn, the Australian breakdancer lady.
Mm-hmm.
Basically calling her out for minstrelry.
Yeah.
Which is pretty.
Sorry, my brain said MENSTRUALRY. I was trying to figure out what the fuck that was, and then I remember.
Yeah, that's why she didn't do any aerial work. She had to stay on the ground.
just a fountain on that breakdance stage. All right.
Yeah, leave blood on the dance floor.